Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Bracha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Empires Come and Empires Go. And this lesson is inspired by a video that I watched earlier of Elder Apostle Gabar. It was the last video that he did, and in that video he mentioned the vision in Daniel the second chapter, pretty much about the empires and the destruction of those empires. I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but when he mentioned that, it got me to thinking about that same along the same avenue, dealing with America, dealing with all of those different kingdoms that ruled back then up until today, the end of it, and how the rule of these different empires is temporary, but the kingdom of heaven is everlasting. And these different time periods where these empires ruled pretty much are ushering in the end of the world, because as one empire failed, another one would come in its place. And every time that would happen, a part of the vision of Daniel would be fulfilled in Daniel the second chapter. And ultimately that's what we're looking for. Is we're looking for the destruction of this final empire, which is run by Esau, which scriptures say Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. And once this empire falls, it's over. And see, the mindset of China and Russia and Ishmael and different other nations out there, their mindset is, they have the mindset or the idea that their empire is the one that's going to come up next and rule. Because as you see one empire falling, another empire comes in its place. And their thought is a conventional thought that, all right, this place is going down, and we're doing good. We're on the come up, so to speak. So now it's our turn to come into its place. But no, that's the furthest thing from the truth, because the next kingdom that's coming is a kingdom of Yahushai, slash, the kingdom of Israel, the real Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, and wherever they may be scattered in the world. This is Ecclesiastes or Ecclesiasticus 10:8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. But once this transition takes place, there's not going to be any other change. Let me see if I can find this other precept. All right, I can't think of the wording, I guess. Dealing with, the kingdom is not going to be transferred or not be given to another. I forget exactly where that scripture is at. I mean, if brothers know what I'm speaking about, if they know what the scriptures is, if they could post it on the comment board of Babakushah. But because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. And this is what's happening. So the conventional way of people's thinking in the world is that since they see America falling, they figure that they're going to slide up into like Honest Abe Honeycutt, So let's go from there. Let's see. Brother put Daniel 2. Let's see what that says. Yep, that's it. Barakatah, how about Shemash at the water, bro? This is the divine kingdom. Daniel 2:44. And in the days of these kings shall the power of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. See? But it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So this is what these other nations are not taking into account, that their kingdom is going to fall, you know, and not rise again. And no one is going to take their place except for Yahushai, you know. All right, so now let's go from there. Let's go to the book of Psalms 37. Got a couple of precepts. Psalms 37 and 9. It says, for evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait upon the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, they shall inherit the earth. Because the scripture say that what? The meek shall inherit the earth. Who are the meek? The Israelites. The real Israelites. Not those phonies. It says, for yet a little while, and the wicked shall not be. Yea, thou shalt diligently consider his place, and it shall not be. Why? Because it's going to be transferred. There's going to be a transferring of wealth. There's going to be a transferring of empires from these devils back to us. Now we jump to the 35th verse. And it says, I have seen the wicked in great power. So are they not in great power? You got them right. They're in great power. They have, they have the dominion of the earth. They are living by their blessing, by the sword, which they've taken over the earth by their sword. They have that great power. And this is why King David wrote this about them. Psalm 60 and verse 9. Who will bring me into the strong city? Who will lead me into Edom? So this is a question that King David is asking. So if this is the case, we know that back then King David, Joab, and them were kicking Esau's ass. They said that they destroyed every male in Edom. Those are the ones that were in the land of Edom. So if that's the case, if they whoop their ass, why are they going to be asking the Lord who's going to lead them into the strong city? Who's going to lead them into Edom? Obviously, it wasn't talking about that time because they were kicking Esau's ass. So what is this speaking about? This is prophetic because King David is a prophet, and they were speaking about these times now because at the very end, Esau would be in power, and their power would be great. It would be magnified above all other nations on the planet. So it says, will not thou, O Most High, which hadst cast us off, and thou, O Most High, which didst not go out with our armies? So the Lord is the one that's going to help us. Give us help from trouble, for vain is the help of man. Through the Most High we shall do valiantly, for he it is that shall tread down our enemies. So we're waiting for our enemies to be tread down. All right, so going back to Psalms 37:35, I have seen the wicked in great power, and spreading himself like a green bay tree. Yet he passed away, and lo, he was not. Yea, I sought him, but he could not be found. Because eventually what's going to happen is they're going to be moved out of the way. Now let's go from there to the Apocrypha, to the book of 2nd Ezra. Book of 2nd Ezra, the 9th chapter. But before we read that, let's go real quick to, you know what? Let's go real quick to the book of Ecclesiastes, the 9th chapter and the 11th verse. It says, whatever your hand finds to do. Let's go to the 11th verse. I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to men of understanding, nor yet favor to men of skill, because this is not how you gain a kingdom. It doesn't matter how strong you are. Remember many times when these different nations that came against us with iron chariots, I mean, powerful armies that crazy. It outnumbered our armies by far. But what happened? Through the power of the names of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, our forefathers did valiantly and beat these different nations. Because I believe that was Elijah or Elisha. I believe it was Elijah that said, Lord, open this young man's eyes. And he said that there be more with us that be with them. And when the young man's eyes were open, he was able to see the chariots, the angels everywhere, ready to do battle against that particular, I believe those are the Syrians at the time. So this is the case. So it has nothing to do with strength. It has nothing to do with swiftness. It has nothing to do with being wise and intelligent, or having all types of skill. It says, but time and chance happeneth to them all. So there's a time and a chance for everyone to rule. You see? And we're at the point now where there is a waning of Esau's kingdom. And the other nations are like Honest Abe Honeycutt trying to, slide up in there. But unbeknownst to them, they're not the next rulers. Which shows you that they don't know the mysteries of the Lord. Because if they knew the mysteries of the Lord and they saw what was going on in the world, they would recognize that no, ain't nobody ruling next. The Lord is coming back to rule. But it shows you that they're not connected with the Lord. So let's go from there to, real quick, before I go to Second Ezra, let's go to Psalms, the 75th chapter. Psalm 75:5. Lift not up your horn on high. What does a horn represent? A horn represents power. So don't lift up your power on high. Because who is at the top of the mountain? That's usually king of the mountain, right? And then whoever can get up there and knock him down, they could be the next ruler. So these Moabites and Russians and all that, thinking that they can outmaneuver, outmonopolize, outbuy, outbid Esau out of existence so that they could come into place, they're bugged out. It says, lift not up your horn on high, speak not with a stiff neck. It says, for promotion cometh neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the south. So what is a promotion? A promotion is an upgrade in your job. Let's go to the word promotion. The word promotion is rawam, which the word rawam or the word rum comes from the word exalted. So an exaltation, because a promotion is nothing more than an exaltation. To rise, rise up, be high, be lofty, be exalted. Let's go to the Common Dictionary. And let's look up the word promotion. Here we go. Promotion. It says, activity that supports or provides active encouragement for the furtherance of a cause, venture, or aim. The publication of a product, organization, or venture so as to increase sales or public awareness. It's got to be more. That's a promotion, but you also have a promotion like when you get promoted into a job. Let's see what this says here. Matter of fact, let me go back. Was that Free Dictionary? Cambridge. All right, let's see what Cambridge got to say. Promotion. Nope, that's not the one. Nope. Right. The act of raising someone to a higher or more important position or rank. So that's what a promotion is. So the Lord is telling them, look, don't raise up your horn on high. See, to exalt, extol, to be lifted up, meaning you go from level to level. You're raised up another level, which usually comes with more responsibilities, comes with more money. Right? So it says, for promotion cometh neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the south. But the Most High is the judge. He putteth down one and setteth up another. So the Most High is the one that puts down empires, and he's the one that promotes empires. He's the one that exalts empires. So if they really were if they really were connected to the Most High, they would recognize the signs that are being played out here in the world, that it's the very time when the Lord is about to visit this place to destroy it and to set up the kingdom of his son. / the kingdom of his people. Hence, 2 Ezra 9:1. He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, meaning signs, things that are occurring around the world, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. So the Lord said that there would be a certain amount of empires that would rule on the planet, and then at the end of these empires, there will be certain things going on, certain signs going on to let us know that the kingdom of his son was going to be ushered in, because once these major empires rule on the earth, then they would be taken out of the way, and his son Yahushua would be placed on the throne. And that's where we're at right now. We're at the place, at the point where there's going to be a translation. There's going to be a moving out of the old and the moving in of the new. All right? And that's where we're at. So it says, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, do not we see plenty earthquakes, uproars of the people, so-called natural disasters, different things taking place around the world, famines, pestilences, all different type of stuff going on around the world? So what does that mean? That means that there's going to be a transition happening. We're at the very beginning stages of a transition. Because in order for one king to sit on the throne, another king has to fall. Two kings cannot sit on the throne. So the king of this world, or the prince of this world, which is Esau, he's on his way down, and Yahushua is on his way up. That's why the very first people that Yahushua is coming to visit are the Edomites. So it says, then shalt thou well understand. See, when you start seeing these things, measure the time. Take heed of the prophecies. Keep a watchful eye. See what's going on. Because when you start seeing the uproars of the people, you start seeing famines, you start seeing earthquakes in diverse places, you start seeing pestilences, you start seeing all these different things, then you will well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, because that's what the prophets always spoke about. The prophets spoke about the different calamities that would befall different nations on the planet, and different things that would be happening. There was a precept that came to mind. I wish I would have just grabbed it. Okay, beautiful. Barakateh Halbashem El Shai. Jeremiah 28:8. So it says, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms of war and of evil and of pestilence. So what does it mean to prophesy? It means to say before. So the judgment for so-and-so, whatever kingdom it was, the prophets will go out there and speak it, and eventually those words that they spoke, which are the words of the Lord Yahweh Bashem El Shai, got hold of that kingdom and took that kingdom down. There was no strength left in that kingdom anymore, because the Most High is the judge. He setteth up one and putteth down another. All right, so going back to 2 Ezra, it says, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. So what does it mean to be manifest? It means to be made known. It's being manifested. It says, even so the times also of the highest have plain beginnings in wonder and powerful works, and ending in effects and signs. So the words of the Lord are starting to affect this place. They're starting to come into a effect or effect. They're affecting it with an A, and they're coming into effect with an E. So in other words, these things are starting to take hold of this world. And why? Because we're at the end. It says, and everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith whereby you have believed, shall be preserved from the said perils, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders, for I have sanctified them for me from the beginning. Yeah, because this is the ultimate destination of the Israelites. The elect, once they're delivered, the land of Israel is going to be totally destroyed, and then it's going to be rebuilt back up. So the Lord is going to bring down his men, the 144,000, the governing body of Israel, and from that point on, under the orders of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, the men of the Lord are going to be setting up everything in its order so that everything can be rebuilt back the proper way. And this old ass kingdom be destroyed and taken out. And the ones that get the spiritual power are going to be going around the world destroying any of the weapons that are left. Whatever they may be, whatever military weapons are around the world, they're going to be burning them, with spiritual power. Because the next step once the kingdom is established is what? The nations going into slavery, taking those weapons and turning them, taking the weapons of war and turning them into farming utensils. Why? Because they're going to be slaves. So going back to Psalms 75, it says, but the Most High is a judge, he putteth down one and setteth up another. Now let's go from there to Daniel. Chapter 4, verse 17. It says, this matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. Yeah, because the Most High is setting up the angels. The angels are doing their bidding. The holy ones are, angels and the messengers of the angels on earth that are teaching his words. So everything is being put in its proper order because the Lord got everybody working and give it to whomsoever he will. So the Most High is the one that rules in the kingdom of men, and he gives it to whomsoever he will. Now there is a blueprint. There is a blueprint of, matter of fact, let's type in blueprint. Let's see what comes up for blueprint. There is a blueprint on how it's going to take place. Blueprint. An early plan or design that explains how something might be achieved. A plan for a building or machine printed with white lines on a blue background. A complete plan that explains how to do or develop something. So the blueprint is already written in the scriptures. So we're at the point where the blueprint, the job that's on the blueprint is just about at the finishing point. Just putting the last finishing touches. Like you have rough framing, roughing for the electrical, and after you finish all the roughing, get everything put back together, the final stage is what? Finish work. That's where you put your trim up and your cabinets and your different adornings and things that's going to make the house look nice. So we're at the point now where everything is being finished off. So a blueprint is a complete plan that explains how to do or develop something. So that's where we're at now. So the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men. And what we're seeing right now is the basis of men ruling. And you see what happens when you let the basis of men rule. They destroy everything because they're nothing more than brute beasts. So the word basis is the word shapal, and the word shapal is low, lowliest of station, because they are the bottom of the bottom. They are the lowest of the low. They're really the lowest of the low. Esau. In the book of Job, the 30th chapter, it calls them basemen. And the basemen, when you look that up, it means men of no name. Meaning that when you look at their name and you look at their who they are as a people, as being the Edomites, they really haven't contributed anything to society but destruction, devastation, theft, murder, rape, pillaging, all of that stuff. So what are they? So they're the real barbarians. You see? Because they haven't really accomplished anything. All they've done is stole. And all they've stole, they also have plagiarized. Because everything that they do, they got the ideas from somebody else, from another empire. That's why America is nothing more than a conglomerate of ideas and religions and laws compiled from all these different nations. And this is what, the Spirit kind of was the Spirit was putting in my mind when I was watching Elder Apostle Gabar's video. So we're at the point now where all of these things and all of these empires pretty much are wrapped into the American empire system. That's why when we go to, we finished with this, right? When we go to Revelation 11, just one out of many, and 8, it says, and their dead bodies, which are the Israelites, meaning spiritually dead, shall lie in the streets of the great city, which is America, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt. Why? Because they practicing the same things that those different empires did. And you have to remember that all of these empires have priesthood. And that priesthood that they have to do certain things to appease their so-called gods, their fake gods, so that they can get, favors. But what it is they're sacrificing to demons. And those demons are giving them the power that the Most High is allowing them. So once they get to a certain point, them demons are going to back off. And they're not going to be able to give them any more insight on what to do next. Because they're temporarily in power until the rightful ruler comes in place, which is Yahushua / Yasha Allah. All right, it says, where also our Lord was crucified, meaning the Lord was crossed out. So all of these names are all wrapped up into America. This is why America is known in the Bible as Babylon the Great. The word Babylon goes back to the word Babel, which goes back to the Hebrew word Babal, which means confusion. What is confusion? Let's go and look up the word confusion now. The word confusion, a situation in which people do not understand what is happening, what they should do, or who someone or something is. So there's nothing but a bunch of confusion here. Let's see if they got any more. A situation often with a lot of activity and noise in which people do not know what to do. Let's see if there's anything else. A lack of understanding or a state of disorder. Why? Because everything is all wrapped up together into one. That's why it's known as Babylon the Great. Not only is it the place of confusion, but it's a place of great confusion. All right. So going back, now let's go from there to the book of, let's go to Daniel, the 2nd chapter. This is dealing with the vision that Nebuchadnezzar had, which none of his priesthood, none of the Chaldeans, none of those magicians, those that practice magic art, none of them could break this down because the Heavenly Father wasn't dealing with them, which shows you that these other nations are not connected with the Most High like that because they don't understand the mysteries. Daniel 2:26. Let me see. It says the secret is revealed to Daniel. Yep. It says, the king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, art thou able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen and the interpretation thereof? Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, the secret which the king had demanded cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers show unto the king. Why? That's his priesthood. That's his counsel. His so-called spiritual counsel on the left-hand side that he calls upon whenever there's a dream or a situation or something that he can't figure out. But there is a power in heaven that revealeth secrets and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. And this is talking about the actual latter days. Sometimes you'll read the latter days and it's talking about a situation that helped end that particular empire at that time. This latter end is talking about the latter end now. Because if this happened back during the time of the Babylonian Empire, how come Yahushua's kingdom isn't established yet? Because right after these empires, ruling, Yahushua would be ruling. He would be on the throne. All right. It says, thy dream and the vision of thy head upon thy bed are these. As for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed, what should come to pass hereafter. So he was meditating to find out what was going to happen in the future. Because remember, these kings their minds were deep. You know, they weren't just about having pleasure and all that. They were well studied. They were men that were sagacious, meaning they were very wise. You know, that's why they, from time to time, they will call on their servants to bring in the books of the Chronicles. You know, for them to read off, you know, some of the stuff that took place in a different in times past. And sometimes that would help them to formulate, you know, a plan for the future. Or sometimes, as in the case of Mordecai, so what was done for this man that did such a great thing for the king? Nothing. And they would give him the reward, so on and so forth. So it says, and he that revealeth secrets maketh known to thee what shall come to pass. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have, more than any living, but for their sakes that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that thou mightest know the thoughts of thy heart. Because the thoughts that he had in his mind are being answered by Daniel through the Spirit, so that he could know what was coming after, which was perfect timing, because it was written down to be a witness for this time. Because we're shortly coming into the point where the last empire of this vision is in power, and they're about to be brought down, you know. It says, thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. The great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. So he actually saw that statue that they paint, or that they, you know, that you see when you type in Daniel's or Nebuchadnezzar's dream, you know, and you type that in, and you see the actual statue, and it actually was as a man, and it had different types of metals on it, all the way down to the feet, and he saw it in detail. It says, this image's head was of gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. So it says, thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet, that were of iron and clay, and break them to pieces. So what part of the statue are we in today? We're in the part of the statue of the feet. And the stone, being Yahushua, is going to come down and destroy that empire, to establish himself up into power, because that is the vision. So when the scriptures say, measure the time diligently within itself, look to see what on the earth is going on, to let us know that we're at the time when the Lord is about to establish his son's kingdom on the earth. Where are we at in prophecy? So it says, then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floor. Why? Because at the end, this empire that's going to be ruling is going to have incorporated all of those kingdoms into it. Because remember, the kingdoms and the power of the kingdoms and the wealth of the kingdoms are transferred. They're translated from one to another. So they're carrying on the same torch of the one previous to them. So America has all of those different empires wrapped up into one here in America, Babylon the Great. All right. It says, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. So that's Yahushua coming to establish his kingdom on the earth with the Israelites. The interpretation, Babylon, the first kingdom. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art the king of kings, for the power of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And whatsoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. So at that particular time, the head of gold, which is a representation of Nebuchadnezzar, was also a representation of the Babylonian Empire, ruling and governing over all those other kings. right? Then it says, and after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. And what was the kingdom that arose after the kingdom of the Babylonians? There was the Medo-Persian Empire. The Medes came up first, but the Persians became a greater power as pertaining to the vision. When you go to Daniel, the 8th chapter, Daniel, the 7th chapter, and the 8th chapter, it says, in another third kingdom of brass. So the head of gold represented Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonian Empire. The arms and the was the breast, the arm and the breast of silver, that represented the Medo-Persian Empire. And another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth, meaning over the whole known world at the time, back then, which was what? The brass is a representation of Alexander the Creep, or the Greek, and the Greek Empire. Then it says, and the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these shall it break in pieces and bruise. So the Roman Empire, which was the fourth empire, came into power, and this Roman Empire bruised all of these other kingdoms and incorporated them into his kingdom. Because although these kingdoms were not empires anymore, there was rulers and different people of that nation still around. So they just kept being incorporated from one kingdom into the next kingdom, into the next kingdom. And when we understand what happened to the Roman Empire, the old Roman Empire fell 2,000 years ago, but then the scriptures say that wound that deadly wound that seemed like it was unto death was healed and came back into power. Because if the Roman Empire was the last empire, then Yahweh's kingdom would be here already. Which the Roman Empire is the last empire, but it wasn't the last empire back then. It's the last empire now, in America being Rome all over again. And the whole alliance with those with NATO and with NATO and the EU, that's all a part of the ancient Roman Empire's revival back again today, which today they actually rule over the whole planet Earth. See, back then you had the empires that were concerned with taking over the known world, the metropolis of the world, because you had other places around the world where you had people living there, but they were no man's land. They had communities set up, they lived in there, but it wasn't set up and established like the metropolis of Rome. So everywhere Rome conquered, they set it up just like they set it up in Rome itself. Just like America. America's established. All the places around the world want to be like America. All right, so it says, and whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, and these 10 toes represent the EU, which back then was the EEC, European Economic Community, which later just became known as the European Union. And those are the 10 toes, because there were actually 10 nations. And when you go back to the origins of it, it's really 10 that were broken up into 12. And then, as you see today, they keep adding more and more European nations into it. It says the kingdom shall be divided. And that's exactly what's happening. They divided, on all levels. And one of the main things that they're divided in is economics. But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron. Because of what? Because of certain countries, European countries are financially strong, and also because of the military. It says, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, and the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay. So the part of iron and part of clay, meaning partly strong financially and partly weak. And when you go to those EU nations, you see the ones that are strong and you see the ones that are weak. Like Germany would be considered a strong one. Switzerland, but then you had the other European nations like Spain and Greece, and some of them, they were falling behind as far as finances were concerned, because this was the Lord bringing these things to pass, measuring the times. So the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. So we're at this point now. It says, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Yeah, because there's no matter how many alliances they make with each other, no matter how many marriages or intermarriages they make with each other to try to keep this thing going, they won't be able to, because they're at the end of this empire. So once they're at the end of their empire, the Lord is causing their power to slip. That's why Asaph in Psalm 73 said, the Lord has set them in slippery places. All right. So then it says the divine kingdom. And in the days of these kings shall the power of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. Now, were all of those kings ruling at the same time? No, because it was one empire after the next empire after the next empire after the next empire. So today these kings are ruling. The way that they're ruling is all in the conglomeration of America, because America is holding some form from each one of those empires today. This is why she's known as Babylon the Great. So on all levels, they're all a part of this, with the power that America has. Because remember, the kingdoms kept being translated, the empires kept being translated, all the way to America. And Jake held sway of that for a period of time. And then during the time of the Renaissance, that's when what you see today, the beast, whose deadly wound was healed, being set back up into power. That's what you see now going on. It says, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. Yeah, because once this kingdom is destroyed, Yahweh Shai is going to set up on his throne, and it's not going to move anymore like in ancient times, because it's not going to be a thing of, now is your time. Nope, now is your turn. Nope, now is your turn. No. Once Yahweh Shai's kingdom is established, that's it. It's over. There's no more changing. No more changing of the guard. 2 Samuel 7 and 10. Moreover, I will appoint a place for my people Israel, and will plant them, that they may dwell in a place of their own, and move no more. Neither shall the children of wickedness, the Edomites, afflict them any more as before time. So once the kingdom is established, that's it. There's no more. Affliction shall not arise a second time. So going back to Daniel 2 and 44, and in the days of these kings shall the power of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. That's it. You read Daniel 7 chapter, you read the same thing. For as much as thou sawest the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great power have made. And see, it went what? It went backwards. When you read the image, when Nebuchadnezzar had it, and when Daniel was breaking down, he was going from head to toe. When the stone, Yahweh Shai, breaks it, the angel is explaining it to Daniel from the feet up. Listen good. For as much as thou sawest that the stone, Yahweh Shai, was cut out of the mountain without hands, and it break in pieces the iron, that's the feet, and the brass, that's the legs and the thighs, the clay, which that's part of the feet, the silver, which was the breasts and the arms, and the gold, which was the head. Because all of these nations were are all some way or another incorporated into the American or Babylon the Great today. It says, the great power hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Because we have a more sure word of prophecy. So that's where we're at in prophecy. That's why the name of the lesson is Empires Come and Empires Go. And we're at the point where this empire is going, because they're finished. The joy of the hypocrite is for a while. Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. So we're at the point now where this final empire, which Esau is the end of the world and Jacob was the beginning of it that followed, is coming to an end, so that Yahweh Shai's kingdom can be established. And there's no other way to explain that. Even some of these so-called scholars know who the kingdoms were. Babylon, which you had the Syro-Babylonian Empire, you had the Medo-Persian Empire, you had the Greek Empire, you had the Roman Empire, then you had a pause for 1,000 years in their rulership, when Jake was governing and ruling all throughout Europe. And then during the Renaissance period, Esau came back into power for what? For the healing of that deadly wound, to finish fulfilling the vision that Daniel saw. The book of Daniel 2, the book of Daniel 7. So empires come and empires go. And America is that last empire that's about to go. And Yahweh Shai's kingdom is about to be established. / Yasha Allah's kingdom. All right. So that's where we're at in prophecy with it. So empires come and empires go. So with that, I pray that your brothers and your few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say, Shalom.